Hey everybody, it's John, retired old man. Kind of things in the background a little crooked. I'm sitting here at the kitchen table. Just finished up breakfast, pancakes, fried spam, and some orange juice. And that's kind of a typical fare for me. Anyhow, hope you're having a good Sunday morning wherever you are. It's going to be a great Sunday here in the Upper East Side of Texas, which brings me to thinking about when I was a kid on Sundays growing up in little country churches. And, things have sure changed. Now, we go to a pretty good sized church now, but it's nothing like what it was growing up. When you grew up in a country church, you had what you may have had a full time pastor, but more than likely it's what they call bivocational pastor. Typically, he was a farmer, a businessman in town, or perhaps you might have even shared a pastor with another church, and so that pastor may have, you have two services, and then those two churches get together and they kind of flip flop. One has Sunday school first, and the other one has church first, and they spread them apart just about 15 or 20 minutes, so the preacher can drive real quick between those churches, and that worked out real good from time to time. I went to some churches like that. Well, I mean, the town I grew up in, as we had different preachers come through, you have different arrangements. But today, everybody's got fancy titles. I'll tell you the titles that we had. We had preacher, and of course today, that's senior pastor, I suppose, is what the equivalent would be. And the other one that we had was song leader. And that was just somebody at church who could kind of sing a little bit. Nothing special. It could be a man, could be a woman, but that'd be the song leader. And today, of course, that's your worship pastor, or music minister. That's the title today. And then the third position little country churches had was Sunday school superintendent. And of course today that's your, I suppose that'd be adult minister or a small groups minister. We got all these different titles, including the church I go to, and I got nothing wrong with that. I'm not fussing about that, not even complaining about it, just commenting on it a little bit about how we've got all these different titles. So when I grew up, this is what you had. You had your preacher, song leader, Sunday school superintendent, and then you had your church secretary, and that was usually a lady she usually kept her job forever, and that was a job you had until you died or so incapacitated that you could not carry on anymore. And of course today, our budget where I go to church at, I won't talk about it, but it's huge. Our payroll budget, it's huge. I'm actually on the personnel committee at the church. Being from a HR background, I guess that's why I got roped into that deal. I think most people on that committee are either HR people or are pretty high up in some pretty big businesses here in town. But so I'm kind of the anchor of that committee, I reckon. But anyways, huge budget, and I think back there when I was growing up, if you paid a preacher, I think you may have paid the preacher $100 a week. And of course, then you had what was called church parsonage too, and that's where the preacher lived at. If he was a full-time preacher, and if it's bivocational, he might get $20, $25 a week to preach. But churches were good. Churches were good. The format kind of went like this, and I'm kind of rambling, so I'll keep on going. Just another 10 minutes, another minute. And the church services started like this. Usually they started at 10 o'clock, and that was always Sunday school. Sunday school superintendent, he would get up and he would say a few words, usually sing a couple of songs, and then everybody would be together at that time. And then at about 10 or 15 minutes after 10 o'clock, everybody would go off in little bitty groups, and that would last till about 10 minutes to 11. And at that time, of course, you had smokers at the church. Smoking was a real big deal when I was a little boy. So all the smokers would go outside of the front steps. You'd have just about enough time to smoke one cigarette, tell maybe a couple of stories. Then you came back inside and church started. I was always pretty good about getting out at dinner time or noon. But anyway, no titles, just good preaching. I hope y'all are having a good Sunday wherever you are. It's going to be a great one here in Northeast Texas. Till we meet again, this retired old man. Y'all be careful. God bless.